Hello everyone, Loremaster Sotek here, and there is some kind of very big statement out from Creative Assembly. I got informed that it was going to drop at a certain time, and that was it. There was no, what was going to be in it or anything like that. So I'm going into this just as blind as all of you. I just got home from taking Sadie to the dog park, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and see what this all is. Hopefully it's good news. I'm expecting it's probably going to be a little bit of a mix, but let's see what all Creative Assembly has to say in regards to everything going on. So, dear Total War fans, Roger Collum, Vice President at Creative Assembly, writing on behalf of the leadership team. Okay, so this is definitely the biggest big shot we've had put out a message so far. It's been a difficult few months, and we recognize that we have made mistakes when it comes to our relationship with you all. It's been a constant conversation internally on how we can get back to solid ground. It's clear that it won't be easy and that it will take time and effort. That's very true. We see the confusion, the frustration, the distrust of us across the community, and honestly, it breaks our hearts. We make games to bring you joy, to inspire a love of history, of fantasy, and strategy games, and, you know, presumably also to make money. Total War is our everything. We care about as deeply as you. Recently, it's clear that we have failed to demonstrate that in our actions. We're sorry. We cannot fix our issues overnight, but we will work towards a more transparent and consistent relationship with you all. Total War is a big and complex ship to steer, built on decades of knowledge, passion, technology. The slow and steady pace we've taken up to now has benefited us in the past, but today we see the need to react faster to help address the challenges that are ahead of us. So let's talk about those challenges, what you can expect from both Total War Warhammer 3 and Total War Pharaoh going forward. Total War Warhammer 3. We have listened to your feedback on Shadows of Change, and we know that we failed to meet your expectations on what a DLC should be. To address that, we are enhancing our offer for everyone who purchased Shadows of Change with more content. Thank you, God. And a commitment to ensuring that we better meet your expectations going forward. We are targeting a major update to Shadows of Change, which will arrive for free for everyone who owns it. We have the goal of releasing this update in February 2024, at which point it will become part of the package for everyone who buys it in the future. That launch date is our ambition, but this isn't concrete. It may move, and as soon as those plans are finalized, we'll let you know, and we'll keep you in the know as we get closer to its release. When we return in the new year, you'll hear directly from game director Richard Aldridge and the Warhammer 3 team, who will start to talk to you about what this expansion to Shadows of Change will look like. That is excellent, excellent, excellent news. I hope it's really big. I think I could definitely survive if it wasn't like colossal, if it would, you know, just kind of address the major issues. But hopefully it is sizable. But let's see what else they have to say. Making this right is important to us, and to do this properly, Thrones of Decay will move out of its intended release window of winter 2023. Obviously, I think everyone kind of figured that out already. We're looking to launch this DLC in April of 2024. We also have more work to do on Thrones of Decay to make sure that we don't repeat our past mistakes and to give you the amount of content that you rightly expect from us at these price points. Once we've launched our free update to Shadows of Change, we'll talk more about what this next DLC will offer and how we'll add to your experiences of Warhammer 3. We'll make sure that you know exactly what's coming in Thrones of Decay before pre-orders are available, and make sure that you have full transparency around the content before you see those buy now buttons. After Thrones of Decay releases, we'll reveal what's next in the series of content for Warhammer 3 looks like. Our work on this beloved series is not finished yet. Since 4.0 went live, we've changed up how we approach making updates to the game, releasing 10 hotfixes as well as patch 4.1, all targeting issues that we've seen emerging after each subsequent update, as well as introducing new features like skill point resets that help balance and improve the core experience while playing the game. It's an increase in the number of game updates that we usually release, and we want to keep this cadence of releases going forward. We can't commit to a fixed number of updates every month, as we ultimately release these based on the content we're building and the issues that we see you raising that need our attention. However, over these last few months, we've released a game update roughly every 2 weeks, and where we can, we'd like to stick to that through 2024. Excellent. I think that honestly, I think that is as good of news as we could have gotten. Realistically, I mean, sure, there's I think for what my expectations were, this is the best case scenario. I'm sure there are people out there that really wanted them to come out and be like, oh look, Thrones of Decay is coming out this week, or Shadows of Change update this week, but it sounds like it's going to be a pretty serious amount of things. So I am very much hoping that these are going to be substantial. And with that in mind, you know, we're looking at a... It's going to take a bit, which I'm personally totally fine with. I would rather them take their time and give us something good than rush to get something out before Christmas and it not be good. I mean, we'll talk more about that stuff at the end. Total War Pharaoh. I am going to go ahead and skip over the Pharaoh section. Feel free. I'll make sure this is linked down below. But if you want to read over the Pharaoh stuff, all the power to you in the world. It's just not something I'm interested in right now. So feel free to check that out. But I'm going to go ahead and skip that to the end. So it says, before we sign off from today's blog, we're going to talk about how we include more of your voices in what we do. We want to expose more of what we do behind the scenes. Our goal is to invest more in our player channels moving forward, introducing more voices from the studio who can speak to you directly about their work and how that relates to what you want from our titles, and most importantly, to keep listening to your feedback. This will all be a work in progress, so do bear with us, but this is our direction moving forward. We again apologize for the missteps we've made. The mistakes of Total War are a shared responsibility by all the leaders of the franchise, and while it may not seem like it at times, we are listening. We really hope that the extra love we're pouring into the Warhammer 3 DLC, our several recent updates, and the changes to Pharaoh show our heartfelt commitment to these games and to you. We know we have a lot of work to do, and this one letter doesn't amount to any proof of the future. You'll need to see the change before you believe it. You will hear from us again on the changes coming to Shadows of Change, on what to expect for Pharaoh when we return from the holidays, and you'll continue to hear from us, the Total War leadership team, once we've settled back to the flow of the new year, and we'll keep bringing you more news on where we're at. Where we make mistakes in the next part of our journey, we'll work to act faster to address them, to iterate whilst we learn from those moments, and to always be taking steps in the right directions. We hope that you can find patience for us as we find our footing again, and we hope in the coming months we can prove to you with actions along with words. Okay, so I don't want to make this video like super crazy long because there are other things I'd rather do with my day, but I will say that there are two things worthy of note. The first is that I think as far as a message to the community goes, this is really solid. Barring if they had something in particular to show off, I think that would have been nice. But overall, I do think that this is the right move. I think this is a very well put together statement. I think they did a very good job of acknowledging their issues and the problems that they've had, communicating, getting things out in a timely fashion, meeting expectations, all that jazz, and didn't fall into any of the kind of classic blunders of like blaming the community for what happened. I think this is good. I think this is a very, very good statement. Now, as they mentioned in the letter, and I'm glad they mentioned it, just because they wrote a really nice sounding letter doesn't ultimately really mean anything. If anything, it just means they finally listened to their PR people when writing a half decent letter. We will need to see what the new year holds. I do think that them officially, because it's been heavily rumored for a bit, but them officially committing to adding quite a bit of extra content to Shadows of Change, excellent. It is extremely good news. The note that they feel that they've learned from Shadows of Change and Thrones of Decay is going to be increased in size to make it similar to what Shadows of Change will be after the February update. Excellent. I will say I don't think there was any chance in hell they were going to adjust the price. I think that at least for this type of DLC, the kind of Shadows of Change, Thrones of Decay, like this species, so to speak, of DLCs, I think that price point that we see now just is the price point. I don't think there's any going back from that. I do think that is very possible that we might see them introduce new types of DLCs that will be at different price points. I think there could be a very strong argument made for, much smaller packs that focus on just characters or maybe just add like some monsters or some other type stuff, and are more in the like, you know, $7 to $12 range, I think those would be very popular. But for if Shadows of Change can, I mean, if they could come out and make sure it's like everybody gets a generic Lord and Hero, everybody gets, you know, maybe 2 to 3 more new units, everybody gets like some really little nice freshening ups for their base factions, and everybody gets, I don't know, like everybody gets like a legendary hero instead of just Zinch getting 2. You know, I think that could go a really long way to making that pack feel much more for the price point. Granted, I personally know that there are some people out there, I've seen them on the Reddit or the Discords and whatever, that I think there are some people that the new price points are just, it's just too high. Like, they're just like, it's worth like half the game, there's nothing they could possibly put in it, and it's like, well, okay. Like, that is, if that's your position, then that's your position. I don't really think there's, unfortunately, I just don't think there's any way to realistically meet that as far as bringing the price down, because as much as it would be nice to see, I know if I were a company and we did something, if someone was like, well, what if we just made it cheaper, it'd be like, ooh, like, I don't think we can realistically do that, because the second we show that we're willing to negotiate on price, suddenly everything we release ever is going to be negotiable, which is just a nightmare. No, it's better for us to add things to it for free that make it then worth that price, and try and make sure we match that going forward. I mean, personally, and granted, I realize that I could be an outlier on this, because I am a complete and massive slut for anything Warhammer Fantasy related. I acknowledge that. I recognize that. That I don't really care how expensive it is, as long as it's good and I feel like it's got enough in it to justify that price point. Shadows of Change, I felt, is like it's on the right track. It's just not far enough down the track. You know, it's like it's a good, I feel like it has a good foundation. They just didn't finish the house, and I need them to finish the house for the amount of money they're asking for. But I really do think that this is, is there more I would have liked to see in the statement? Yes, I would have loved to have seen something about what they're wanting to put in Shadows of Change. I think if they could have shown us like maybe one new thing from each faction, maybe like some concept art or something, I think that would have been really cool. However, at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I always can't tell. I genuinely cannot tell if for this community, people prefer like drip feeding hints, or if they prefer more of just like, all right, here's fucking everything once we've got everything locked in and we know everything, like as far as what it's gonna look like, or you know, because like it might change, you know, if they show off stuff too early. So could be that, you know, whatever. Overall, I'm happy with this statement. I am very, very curious what you all think. Please let me know, does this make you feel better going into the holidays? Is there something specific you really would have liked it to address? I mean, I will say, I do want to say this. I will say, I felt, the reason I like this statement is I feel they did a really good job of addressing the 3 primary demands of the community, which I think were very fair demands, which were A, there needs to be more consistent bug fixes on a more regular basis. It can't just be a bug fix every patch. You know, we can't have Nakai not have access to Crocsgores for half a year. It's ridiculous. B, that Shadows of Change didn't have enough for its price point. Shadows of Change was just kind of grossly overvalued. While the stuff there had a lot of fun, it had a lot of good things to it. there just wasn't enough for the price point, so more needs to be added. They're doing that. Now, we still need to wait to see how many or how much is going to be added to it, but I feel really positive about this. And then lastly, that you cannot do this in the DLCs going forward. That the DLCs going forward, they either need to be a different kind of DLC so that they can be cheaper, or if you're going to continue with this style, at least for the original plan where they're doing like one for each Chaos God and before we like move on to the next type. But if you're going to do one for each Chaos God in this style and they're all going to be that $20 or $30, whatever it is, price point, then they need to be stuffed with content. Like they don't need to be little itty bitty Lord packs. These need to feel like the expansions of like the early 2000s, late 90s, where you'd pick up Frozen Throne, or you'd pick up or like one of the expansions to the Dawn of War series, like when you'd go to the store and you'd buy a box disc expansion set for the game you already owned, and it was just a metric shit ton of content added to the game you already had. Like it needs to be at least at that level of caliber. So hopefully this statement is true. Hopefully it is honest. And they have learned their lesson. And 2024 will be a super kick-ass year for Total War of all kinds. Not just Total War Warhammer, but Total War Pharaoh, as well as whatever inevitable new project they're going to release, because CA always puts out, like clockwork, they kind of put out a new Total War game every year, which presumably next year will be a big historical game, because Pharaoh's cool, but Pharaoh's kind of like it's not a saga title, but it's kind of more in that realm. It's not like a Medieval 3 or a Napoleon 2 or whatever the other historical games are, Shogun 3 or whatever they want to do. So yep, that's all my thoughts. I would really, really appreciate y'all's thoughts down below. If you want to hit the like button too while you're here, I'd appreciate that. But do let me know what y'all think. I am deeply curious how everyone feels about reading this. I know for some people, a statement is a statement. It's just words on a page. It doesn't mean anything until there's something to show. And if that's the case, let me know. And let me know for Shadows of Change, since that's kind of like, do you feel that the amount of hotfixes where the one every 2 weeks, is that reasonable? Like, are y'all like, okay, that is addressing the issues I have with bugs? Like, even though there's always going to be bugs, because that's an inevitable fact of this game. It's an unavoidable fact that there will always be bugs in the Total War Warhammer series. It's just too big of a game to get rid of all the bugs. I think that's completely impossible to do. But is 2 weeks to address major bugs and like, one major patch every month or 2 months or so to try and tackle things like sieges and stuff? Like, is that enough to sate how you feel about the game? Or do you think it's not enough? And for Shadows of Change, what all would you need to see in order to feel good about it? Not in the sense of like, I don't think it'd be good to look for specifics. It's like, oh, I'll be happy if Kislev gets the giant, the Frost Fiend, like a giant bat monster. And if they don't get the giant bat monster, oh, I'm going to be mad. Like, I think that's too specific and kind of dumb. So, like, but like, what would you need to see? Like, are you like, oh, I need at least one, like a generic lord and hero for every faction. I need a legendary hero for every faction, or I want another legendary lord, or I want like 2 to 3 more units, or I want a new monster for every faction. Let me know what kind of stuff you see. Or you're like, oh, I want like Kislev to get more of like a rework to their base stuff, or I want the Changelings campaign to be made a little more difficult. Like, just throw it all down there. I'd really like to go through them and read them. But yeah, I'll talk to you all very, very soon. Lots of stuff happening behind the scene. I'm working on something very big that you've all been waiting for a very long time, because the gate that is keeping it in the depths below me has almost reached the threshold where it can no longer contain it. So anyway, I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks for watching.